Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're going to tackle something huge. We're going to dismantle those endless, frankly repetitive debates surrounding science and religion, and we're going to build a clear, foundational understanding of how they actually interact. We've set a goal of a focused, 7-minute explainer to build a wholesome understanding of this topic, so let's not waste any time and jump right in.
So, are science and religion just rival sports teams? Seriously, for years, culturally, we've treated these two as enemies in a zero-sum game. You know the drill, right? If one is right, the other one absolutely must be wrong. But this false dichotomy completely misses the point of what each system is actually designed to do in the first place. They aren't just answering different questions, they are fundamentally different tools.
All right, let's jump into Section 1, what each is for.
Before we even look at how they interact, we have to strip everything back to the absolute base level and ask, what is the fundamental purpose of each? Well, science is trying to build reliable explanations of the natural world. It asks, what happens? How does it happen? What measurable patterns can be tested again and again? Religion, on the other hand, is trying to build meaning, direction, and moral orientation. It asks, what matters? How should we live? So science seeks out those measurable patterns in reality, while religion addresses our deep human need for purpose, value, and ultimate meaning. Think about it like this. Think of science as the engine of a car, and religion as the map. The engine tells you exactly how movement works, right? The map tells you where you are actually trying to go. If you confuse the two, you end up asking the wrong kind of question of each. I mean, you wouldn't look at a paper map to figure out why your spark plugs are misfiring, and you certainly wouldn't ask your engine for directions to the grocery store.
Moving right along to Section 2, how they claim knowledge. Now that we know their different destinations, we really have to understand the vastly different vehicles they use to get there. Scientific knowledge is built by looking for patterns that can be repeatedly observed, tested, checked, and revised. Science is exactly like testing a bridge by repeatedly driving weight across it and measuring what happens. You don't just stand back and admire the bridge, you ask if it holds up under pressure. It relies on public evidence and actively aims to correct its own first guesses. It doesn't begin with certainty, it begins with a question and lets reality answer back.
On the flip side, look at religious knowledge. It generally begins with revelation, tradition, community memory, and lived experience to provide a stable orientation. Religion is much more like family knowledge or learning a spoken language. You don't prove your grandmother's values with a laboratory experiment, right? But they still profoundly shape who you are. You absorb this knowledge through trust, relationship, and participation, using it as a compass to navigate life's massive uncertainties.
So there is a profound contrast here between evidence and interpretation. Science relies on transparent, public evidence, kind of like reading descriptive notes on a page of sheet music. Literally anyone with the right training can inspect those facts. Religion, however, thrives on layered interpretation, much like how reading sheet music is entirely different from emotionally experiencing a song. The notes matter, absolutely, but the actual meaning comes through listening, memory, mood, and context.
The deepest difference here isn't that one is, the smart one and the other is the believing one. Not at all. Rather, it's that they use completely different rules for what counts as a good answer. Science demands repeatable evidence to explain nature. Religion relies on sacred authority and communal experience to offer existential orientation. It's like walking into a well-organized library. If you go straight to the poetry shelf looking for a physics textbook, you're going to be really frustrated, even though both books are highly valuable in their own right.
Which brings us to Section 3, where they meet and clash.
So if they are built for entirely different purposes, using entirely different methods, why on earth do we see so many historical fireworks and collisions? Well, overlaps happen because an event can be viewed through two lenses simultaneously. Imagine observing a building. To understand it fully, you need to observe both its physical exterior structure, the engineering, the bricks, the physics, and its internal human purpose, the atmosphere, the use, the actual life inside. It's the exact same building, just different kinds of seeing. When someone is sick, they might seek medical treatment and also pray for comfort. Those aren't rival actions at all. They address different layers of the very same human situation.
But, clashes do happen for sure. The famous clashes aren't actually science versus religion, though. They are usually the result of one side overreaching and applying the wrong kind of standard to a claim. It happens when religion speaks like science, flattening layered, symbolic, poetic meaning into a literal science textbook to debate geology, for instance. And it happens when science speaks like religion, claiming that human purpose doesn't exist just because a microscope can't measure it. That is a philosophical conclusion getting dressed up as a scientific one. But honestly, because we humans don't live as pure laboratories or pure symbols, these two lenses frequently cooperate beautifully. Humans are whole persons, not sealed compartments.
Religion gives people the deep motivation to care for human dignity, truth, and the stewardship of life. Science, in turn, provides the reliable tools to better serve the world. Think of things like vaccines, medicine, or disaster response. They cooperate brilliantly by using science to clarify what is happening and religion to clarify how to morally respond.
All right, let's wrap this up with Section 4, Seeing the Bigger Picture. To build that truly wholesome understanding we promised at the start, we need to look at the confusing middle ground. Notice how the exact same vocabulary hides two entirely different levels of explanation. Take human behavior, for example. The scientific side studies biology, psychology, and the environment to explain the mechanism. The religious or philosophical side addresses moral responsibility, virtue, and intention to explain the significance. Or look at the question of what a human being actually is. Science sees an organism and a social creature, while religion sees a person, a soul, a moral agent. One is not automatically replacing the other. They are simply talking at different depths. A perfect real-world example of this is the moon sighting for the Islamic holiday of Eid. Precise astronomy can predict exactly when and where the moon will be physically visible in the sky, but layered communal religion guides the legal and practical tradition of when the month officially begins. Astronomy predicts the visibility, religion guides the communal practice. They touch the exact same event with actually doing the same job. It's a great partnership. There's a great saying that really hits the nail on the head here. The car still needs a driver. The driver is the person making sense of evidence, values, limits, and goals. We naturally want a simple winner in these debates, don't we? We want clean stories. But if science is the engine and religion is the map, we must remember that the car still requires a driver to make sense of the entire journey, and we are those drivers.
So, what is the crucial point, the absolute deepest lesson to take away today? It's that science and religion are not enemies. They are not identical twins, and one is certainly not meant to replace the other. They are completely different ways of organizing human understanding. Science and religion do not just differ in what they say, they differ in how they touch human life, providing distinct but incredibly powerful frameworks for navigating reality. Science gives us powerful tools for explaining the world, and religion gives us powerful frameworks for living in it.
Which brings us to our final thought. The next time you see these two worlds collide in the news or online, don't rush to pick a side. Instead, when you encounter that next big debate, will you pause to ask, what kind of question is this really? Is it asking for evidence, interpretation, or moral reflection? Ask yourself if they're being given the right kind of question and discover just how much clearer the world becomes. Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and keep looking at the bigger picture.